Morning, you guys. I'm on my way to work, but I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity, since I already did my weekly update, to share a little bit about me. My name is Jessica. I am 31, and I am a mom of 4 boys. I am married to my husband, Joe. So I will take you back to when I was 15. So when I was 15, I started birth control because I have always had irregular periods. Sorry, guys, but I did. And I started birth control. I got really sick on it. And I was born with a hereditary swelling disease called hereditary angioedema, which we lack C1 inhibitors in our blood, and it causes us to swell. So if you've ever seen like elephantitis, it's not that, but it is temporarily similar. So your extremities, organs, things like that can swell, and it'll swell for about 24 to 48 hours, and then it'll start to go down, or it can move. So when I was taking my birth control at 15, even though I was only taking it straight for periods, I got really sick because of my swelling, and I would start throwing up. And so my doctor ruled out that like any kind of estrogen-based medication would cause my swelling attacks. And back when I was 15, we didn't have any kind of medicines for it. The only thing you could really do is go to the hospital and get fresh frozen blood plasma if it was severe. And that was it. So when I became allergic, or when we realized that it was really going to affect with my swelling disease, I stopped taking it. I met my ex-husband. We were married for, we were together for 11 years. We were married for about 5, and we had tried to have a baby in the meantime. And I knew because of my irregular periods something was up, and what was up was that I have PCOS. And so we tried for probably 2 years on fertility medication, and finally I got to a point when I was, I think, 24, and I said, this clearly isn't for me. There's a reason God put me in this direction, and if I'm not made to birth babies, I want to have a family, so let's figure out plan B. So that's what we did. I ended up getting my foster license with my ex-husband, and we fostered my youngest, actually. His name is Grant, and adopted him. I adopted him, but we fostered him together. Then we got placement for my son Deacon, and we fostered him and was able to adopt him shortly after he came into our home. His parental rights were terminated, and with my youngest, his parental rights were not terminated, and so it was just, we knew that there was a good chance he could go home. So we raised Grant till he was 14 months. He was born addicted to methadone. And so I went through the weeks every other day at the hospital from an hour away, spending nights in the hospital, going as much as possible. I called every shift. I just fell in love with him, and I didn't even really know him. But got to know him and ended up raised him for 14 months. When he turned 14 months, he went back home to his biological parents. It was devastating. I'm pretty sure I went into like a deep depression without even knowing it. I'm not a depressed person. I can get frustrated and stuff, but generally I do have quite a bubbly personality, or I've been told. And I basically reclused into books in my bedroom. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. And I didn't realize how much it negatively affected me. Yeah, it was bad. So my ex-husband and I started having like a pretty rocky relationship at that point. We went through job changes together and whatnot. Well, then it had been just about 5 months after my son had returned home, and we got a phone call that due to his biological parents' decisions, he was coming back into foster care, and his biological family said that it was, his biological grandma said that it would have been beneficial for him to come back to our home because she knew we had loved him very much. So he did, and he's not left since he came back when he was 19 months old. And so, sorry, my arm gets tired. So I raised him. I still have him, and he's adopted now. But after he came back, my ex-husband and I ended up separating, and due to decisions, I guess, on his end, DHS kind of made the decision for him that he needed to sign off of Grant and have no contact with him because things were not healthy for Grant to be around. It was either going to be that they remove Grant and they put him in a new foster home, which I was going to do everything in my power to not let happen, or unfortunately my ex-husband was going to have to relinquish any kind of contact with him. So I agreed that relinquishing contact and keeping, the one person that has always been his stability for him was the right decision. So he ended up signing away saying that he wouldn't have any kind of contact with him. And at the time that I get to adopt him, I get to make that decision. So I stayed single for a little while and ended up meeting my husband, my current husband. His name is Joe, and we dated for a little while, but I was definitely apprehensive. We waited quite a while before he met my children because I didn't feel comfortable bringing my kids around anybody that I didn't know long term or anything like that. I didn't want them to think that I jumped out of one relationship and into another, and now this is going to be their make a daddy family. And I've known way too many people who are willing to do that, and I was not. And so yeah, he didn't come around much when my kids were around. We would wait for my kids to go to bed, and he would come over and we would study together because we were both in college at the time. Or if my kids were with family, then he would come over, we'd watch movies and stuff, but it started out very slow. I was not ready to jump into anything because I had been with my ex-husband for 11 years and just that uncertainty. And yeah, so anywho, so my ex-husband and I adopted he's now going to be 11, Deacon, together. And then my youngest, Grant, I was fostering to adopt by myself. And so when I met Joe, he had a son, and like I said, it took a long time for them to come around, but eventually we started doing things together as groups. We would go to the zoo, bounce houses, things like that, and really got to kind of know each other on a family aspect. And so when we really started to get serious, Joe went through all of the DHS background stuff that he had to do, and he ended up getting not licensed per se, but he was able to come around Grant more because technically through DHS you can't spend nights together more than a night or two, and you still have to have background checks through DHS. So he did all that kind of stuff. He did all of his background checks and stuff, and then when we decided to move in together a couple months later, he basically had to go all over again. So he had to get his foster license, and he did. So we were fostering my son together, because at that point, it sounds like a short term, but it had probably at least 2 years had passed when he finally got his foster license. We were fostering him together. So we had my oldest, which is my stepson at the time, or my stepson, who was our oldest at the time. And then we had my son, who I have with my ex-husband, who was the middle one. And then our youngest, we were fostering together, was our youngest, Grant. So we ended up getting married in September of 2015. And when we got married, we clearly were moved in together and everything was good. We were married for about 3 months. We got married in September, and we were married a month. And in October, I found out that we had some acquaintances, that their niece's nephew went into foster care, and I bawled. I felt heartbroken because these were such good kids that they deserve more than what they potentially could get out of the foster care system. Now, I'm not going to say that there are not foster homes that are wonderful, because they were in a couple of wonderful homes. But you don't know. Unfortunately, you don't know. And I know that these kids were good kids. And so I cried to my husband for probably 2 weeks how I wish that there was something we could do. I want to take them. At that time, we thought maybe we'd still try for a baby, because I had not ever been pregnant. And we decided that we would be a crazy family and we would take on these 2 kids. So we'd have 5 kids. We'd still try for a baby if we felt that that was what we should do. So yeah, we had 5 kids. We moved mountains. We moved bedrooms in our house at the time. We got our house reevaluated so we could extend our foster license, and we were able to move the 2 kids into our home. One is my oldest son, Grant. So I have 2 Grants, and the other is his sister. And so we raised them for about 6 months, and there were some conflicting, not opinions, but conflicting personalities that my foster daughter at the time decided she didn't want to live with us anymore, and she decided to move out. So she deserves the world. She does. But it's going to take time for her to find her value, I think. But anyways, so then we had our 4 boys. We have my oldest Grant, my stepson Cameron, my son with my ex Deacon, and then together we have our son, my youngest Grant. So we have Big Grant and Little Grant. And we were able to finally adopt Big Grant, and we closed our foster license. And since then, that has been our crazy family and how we have developed. So yeah, my husband and I met doing MMA. When I went through this crazy depression, I started to finally wanting to, like, once I come out of it and I got my son back, I decided that it would be best for me to probably get healthy. And so I did. And I was doing mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and things like that. And I ended up losing about 60 pounds. So I probably went from 215 down to 150 so I could do it. But life happened. I went back to school, started back, was working 2 part-time jobs at the time that allowed me to have time to be able to work out. And now I don't. So, yeah, now that's why I'm back on this weight loss journey. But it's kind of been a crazy life that I live. I love it. I love my kids. I love all of my kids. My boys are my boys, all 4 of them. And they're good kids. They really are. They give us hell, but they really are good kids, and I can't imagine my life any different. So I know that sometimes it's hard to understand where people are coming from through a video. And you get to see just such small snippets of their life. So I thought maybe I would share this little bit of my family life with you so you understand who I am. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought maybe it would be kind of crazy because most people didn't know I was a foster mom. Most people don't know that 3 of the 4 kids are adopted and that my one is a stepson. So I don't know. I just thought it'd be something cool to share on a Thursday morning. So hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you all soon, and bye for now.